Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in episode 105. The crew is back. ABB, how you doing today, sir?
I am doing really well. Hey, first of all, thanks for all the birthday wishes and stuff. I felt very loved and appreciated, so thank you all for that. It was a good one. Spent some time with the family, went to the zoo, fed some giraffes. It was a good time. So no, appreciate it. Much needed day off, but back at it, ready to go. Fun episode today. Just a reminder, welcome to the In the Bag channel. This is the first podcast on the In the Bag YouTube channel, so happy to have you all here. If you found us, make sure you like and subscribe. We're trying to build this up and make this our main platform, do some extra content for you. If you're from the Foundation Podcast Network and following us over here, please make sure you like and subscribe. Let's get this in the algorithm. Let's do its thing, and let's keep growing and doing what we do. So appreciate you all. Glad to be over here and excited for this episode. For those of you who joined the live, thank you for that. I felt like I had a huge arm today, which is not true, but I felt like it. So this will be an interesting episode.
Yeah. I'm excited to get this YouTube channel growing. Hopefully, once again, if you are an audio listener, and we have quite a few audio listeners, so we're grateful for y'all as well. Hopefully, you didn't notice a change at all. Like when we said, "Oh, welcome over to the channel," you were like, "Huh? I've been here all the time." So we are grateful for you, grateful for your support. It would mean a lot if you would, even if you're an audio dedicated listener, just to help more people get connected with it, and it also helps create more content opportunities. We were just talking before we even jumping on here about like how we're going to attack it and how we're going to grow this channel specifically. So if you wouldn't mind heading over, some of the easier ways, if you're having trouble finding us on YouTube, one of the fastest ways to get there is if you go to my channel and then you go to the bag draft video that has Jason and Brad sort of in a face off. The link is in the description there. That'll get you there really fast as well. If you're having trouble finding it on YouTube, that's one of the things of why we want to try to get things going is right now, if you search In the Bag on YouTube, you guys have done such a great job supporting us that it takes us to the Foundation Podcast channel. We want to start diverting some of that traffic a little bit different. So very excited.
And if you're looking for us on the last maybe 3 In the Bag episodes on the Foundation Podcast Network channel, there is a link to our new YouTube channel in that description as well. One other thing before we jump in, Robbie, those of you who are looking for my In the Bag, we had some technical difficulties on the back end, technical being scheduling issues, but you should be able to see my In the Bag now. If not, it'll be up this week / this weekend, and you'll be able to check it out there. Robbie's is just going back to next week. Things are going as planned, and we're excited to get some more content. I have 2 more video ideas I haven't shared with Robbie yet, but again, we're going to be putting some content up there for you, disc specific, In the Bag, community specific. So we'll be very excited to get that going. But in the meantime, let's do what we do, Robbie, and let's invite Tyler in and talk about his bag.
Let's do it. Come on. Welcome in to the channel. Tyler, how you doing today, sir?
Great. How are you guys?
Hey, we're doing great. We're excited to talk some discs with you today. But before we talk about the disc, which, first of all, if you're not using disc RPM, folks, let's get on board with that. The In the Bag community is over 1,500 right now, and Tyler is a great example of someone who's really using it to the full capacity. Like I'm looking at his bag right now, Robbie. He's got great notes pretty much on every single disc in his main bag. He has a wish list, which I love, like disc you're thinking about. And then you have like some compressed, some things you've taken out of your bag, and you got a bunch of discs in there, unbagged. I'm just loving how you're using this tool, but that tool's for you. We've helped Disc RPM develop it for you all, and I love seeing it. And again, I always say my favorite thing is like seeing what stamps and what cool like disc you actually have, Tyler. So, but before we like really dive into those, Robbie, let's get to know Tyler a little bit about like how do you play, Tyler? Tell us about you.
Well, I'm left-handed or wrong-handed, depending on who you talk to.
Good to know.
Yeah. So, I've been playing since 2012, I think.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I played Ultimate for a long time. Highly competitive Ultimate. When my pro scene didn't work out due to work, I was like, I can pivot. So, picked up disc golf in college. Love it. Absolutely love it. Got my wife into it. Got my 2-year-old son. He loves it. We got him like a macro set.
Oh, nice. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's great. It's great. he loves watching it, loves playing. So our family's wildly growing into disc golf. But yeah, so been playing for a while. It's a great thing. Love plastic. Just love talking plastic.
Yeah. Tyler, this will be an odd question that I don't normally ask. How old are you?
31.
Okay. Perfect. When's your birthday?
October 2nd.
Okay. I'm also 31 and I started playing in 2012 coming from an ultimate background. So I feel very connected with
Interesting.
you.
Okay.
So this just got a whole lot more interesting. And some of the discs are making sense, like in terms of looking at them and seeing them. Especially that Champ Rock 3. Like I know that Champ Rock 3 in my soul.
Yeah. So my form has changed drastically since I first started.
Hopefully.
Yeah. But I grew up watching like Nico. I was a big Nico fan when I first started, and Ricky, and I learned how to throw on a slight Annie, and so I would throw just unreasonably overstable discs. I mean, for the longest time before I lost it, rest in peace. My PFN Nuke OS, it's in. So if anybody plays Idlewild and you go to the pro layout, and I want to say it's hole 5. Is that the one, like really left hand friendly over the pond?
Yep.
Okay, it's out in the middle somewhere. So somebody gets that for me. My name and number's on it. I'd like that back. That sucker's a sweetheart. But anyways, yeah, launch that thing on flex lines all day long. Now I have, as I've gotten older and my shoulder has deteriorated from Ultimate, I've gone to much more understable things.
I love it. Yeah. No, I think it's 4 or 5. Depends on the year that you're talking about that hole, because they've added in some holes and things like that. That was one of the holes when I played Idlewild that I was like, this hole is so much farther than it looks on screen. Like, because they're just throwing these like stock Hyzers as righties over the side, and like, oh, the water might come into play, but I'm throwing a fairway, so it's fine. And it's like, you're throwing a fairway? What?
Yeah, I couldn't come close to that. I don't even know if I got to the tree.
Yeah. It's grossly far, but beautiful hole. And it's also Idlewild. One of my shockers of playing Idlewild was realizing that the pro layout is just this like hodgepodge of the am layout, and that there's like 4 or 5 holes that you don't actually end up even seeing, because Idlewild's like a 21 or 22 hole track. So
I think it might even be 24.
Yeah,
I think they might have like added some stuff. It's wild.
Yeah. So
awesome.
So are you from that area?
Yeah, not originally, but yeah, I've relocated to Cincinnati.
Okay.
Ohio boy. Love it.
Awesome. So let's talk. We put you in a field, Tyler, and you're out there. We're going to put a basket X amount of feet away from you. How, like, consistently, not downhill in a tailwind, how far do you feel like you're reaching on backhand and forehand?
Yeah, if I'm good and warmed up and everything's clicking, very comfortably 350 backhand, probably 375 forehand, no problem. I can go beyond or below, just depending from there.
Awesome. The farther forehand is definitely going to make. I'm definitely going to have some questions on the top side of that for sure, because that's very interesting. As someone who also, my forehand outranges my backhand, I feel like I have to have discs in my bag that are specifically there for the forehand. Just because you can't put the spin on the forehand that you can on a backhand. So need a little more stability. But we're going to talk distance drivers, because Brad tried 2 distance drivers that, especially even in that intro of like, as you've gotten older, you're using more understable stuff for the distance and things like that. Brad, I don't know about you, but I'm licking my chops at like
Mm-hmm.
could actually be perfect.
Yep. I think it
So
could be a great episode for sure.
very, very excited for those, but we've got to keep the people entertained. So we'll talk putting green real fast and then we'll dive into the bag. I forgot about the putting green. My bad, listeners.
We all like to forget about the putting green. All right.
That's true. That's true.
If
A
we could
lot of
eliminate the
people's
putting
rounds.
green, I would be on the pro tour. I have a feeling, I can work on that distance getting there. All right. That putting green, I don't know what on earth that is.
Yeah.
That's awful.
If we eliminate the putting green, I never have a chance of making it on the pro tour. That's
Lucky
about
you.
all I got. I shocked the crowd that I played with a couple days ago. Like there was one point I had the worst drive in the group. It was bad. And I had joked with someone a couple holes earlier, and I said, like, they threw one and it was just dead middle of the fairway. I was like, that's a 4 from there. And they were like, really, dude? Really? You're making fun of it? Really? Because they only had like 250 feet in.
Mhm.
And then sure enough, they didn't throw a great upshot, didn't throw a great putt, and they took a 4. And so I shanked my drive on this hole, and they were like, oh, that's a 5 from there. And I threw this forehand roller up a hill and then had this like window above a hole above the basket and just dropped it in. And they were like, I'm so mad at you right now, Robbie. So putting can save lives, y'all. It can save lives, truly. So Tyler, put you on the putting green. 10 putts from 15 feet, 10 putts from 25, and 10 putts from 40 feet. How many are you making in each station?
Yeah, I'll probably make 6 or 7 from 15. Honestly, yeah, that's probably where I'm at. Yeah, from 25, I can make 4, 5 or so. And from 40, yeah, I'm just I can make 1, like out of 100.
I feel that.
I respect it, dude, so much. The honesty. That's chat. Show them some love. Show them some love in the comments if those numbers make sense to you as well, because I think it's very accurate.
It's just one of those things that like we all say, hey, we need to be better putters, and then we just like never make time for it. I'd rather go spend time at the driving range working on form when it's I have a very hodgepodge putt that I've tried to emulate and tried to make my own, and it's just never really worked out. So every time I step up there, I'm like, I should try and putt this way, and oh, that doesn't work. All right, I'll try and putt this other way the next time.
Dude, it is one thing that I'll give as a putting tip real fast, and then we'll dive in, is that it takes some time to get it working for sure. I will agree that there's a front end investment on putting for sure. And to maintain it, you do have to continue to add time to it because of the fact that like you just may not have long putts that you're testing while you're on the course, things like that, finding a rhythm. But another nice thing is once you build that habit, once you get it there, y'all, you don't have to really spend a ton of time maintaining it. For instance, I've been trying to putt every day this year, like just keep it going. And so I took a couple weeks off when my elbow got hurt, and so I've tried to get back in the habit this week. So on Monday, I got out there and the putt didn't feel great, so I spent probably 25 minutes out there. But yesterday, I got out there, started putting, and I was making a lot of putts, feeling good. And about 5 minutes in, I had one round where I missed half of my putts. And I was like, okay, I'm done. And I just walked away because once it feels good, if you miss a lot, you can tell yourself, like, did I do something different? Did I not? But don't spend time trying to over tweak it. Because if you're like, I'm going to make 100 putts a day and I'm going to do that, some days those 100 putts are going to be way harder to make than other days. And so you may end up over tweaking, which is going to cause problems long term. So don't be afraid to walk away from the practice green, but getting out to the practice green, even for little amounts of time, like a 5-minute putt break, perfect. So
can I give a putting tip?
Yeah, go for it.
Putting tip: get really good at up shots and leave yourself 5 footers. That's a putting tip. See, on a serious note, sorry to like take this here, but I think it was the day after my birthday or something. I called my parents. They called me. We were talking, and it was like a little after dusk. It was pretty dark outside, and I just went up. I just took like 3 putters out while I was talking to my parents, and I couldn't really even see the basket that well. And I like hit every single putt that I threw basically from all distances. So I think there's something to practicing your like stroke and like your like putting rhythm without having to like focus so much on like where you're aiming and what you're missing. Like I've never felt more confident in my life than after I did that like 15-minute session of me just like just not really paying attention and like just feeling the disc come out of my hand. So I don't know if that's good advice, Robbie, but I felt great after that particular random session of putting.
Yeah, it comes down to a truly not thinking about it. Like Tyler coming from an ultimate background, there's a moment that if you're in the middle of like a fast cut and you have to dump the disc off to the handler, you're not sitting there thinking about like, okay, I want to release this just a little bit, a little bit of Anheuser, get around this defender. Here we go. Like you just do it because your body knows how to. You've practiced that motion. You just do it, and yet for some reason when we get on the putting green, our body knows how to put the disc in the basket. Our body, if it wasn't a disc, if it was a rock, if it was a bouncy ball, you wouldn't think, you would just do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always love working with ultimate players, especially on the coaching side, because it's like truly, I'll never forget someone doing a push pass with a disc to score on a team that we were just destroying them. And so this dude did a push pass and we were like, Jonathan, what are you doing, dude? And he was like, I don't know. I just figured I knew how to do it. So I went for it. We were like, huh? But yeah, those fast twitch muscles and ultimate and all of that, like you just know what to do. So with the ultimate background, talk to me about the Berg, Tyler. Let's jump into the bag.
Yeah, this is the so I have my old bag with me because I love talking with my hands and I need to fidget with something. So like I'm gonna hold on to discs and I'll show them. I think it's really nice whenever guests like hold up plastic for us to see because
Love it.
Ain't all
Yeah.
of us listening or watching on our phones. Some of us commuting, listening to this stuff. So go back and watch it later, I guess. But yeah, anyways, so I've never seen another Berg like this, but it's K1 Soft Leaf Swanson Tour Series. It's got a sweet tiger on it. I don't
That's
know.
very cool.
Sucker's awesome. But this thing, yeah, I'll go to battle for this disc. I think the Berg is the greatest one speed ever when you know how to use it. And when you know what it's for, right? It's not a polecat. It's not a glitch. It's not an armadillo or whatever. It's meant to sit. It's not meant to glide. And so, yeah, I use it for really touchy up shots where I don't want to roll. I don't want to float over the basket. I want to kind of just forehand it up there, and it just like settles. I'm not launching this really off a tee pad unless I'm playing like a pitch and putt course. It really only comes out for like maybe 100 feet and in, but just nice little scrambled touchy shots.
Yeah. Probably would you say it's a comfort disc in terms of like, oh, if I'm between 2 or 3 discs on an upshot, are you usually going to try to make the Berg work?
Oh, it's guaranteed Berg every time. I mean, it's without a question. I kind of wished it was like slightly more overstable. It's pretty beat up. It's got like a twig stuck in it too, which is pretty great. I've had to sand that sucker down, but it's pretty straight now. I think when I first had it, it had kind of a little dump to it, but it's a pretty straight one. But regardless, I'm gonna pull the Berg out.
Okay. Hey, I'm happy for you, and I like the description of like when you know what it's for. Let's not try to push it past what it is. To me, that's always speaking transparently, Tyler, because I talk on the internet a lot. That is my gripe with the Berg personally, is that I can try to get other discs to do, when you learn to throw certain ways, you can get other discs to accomplish similar things to the Berg. Now I'll be the first. I'll say this here because I don't think I've ever said it. The Berg does that shot better than trying to throw other discs a certain way, for sure. Like if I want a disc to just sit, I can throw a sort of nose up, like pushing shot and get a disc to do that. The Berg's going to sit easier than the other ones. But the other discs can then unlock other potential. But at the same time, like, once again, disc golf is a game of fun. So if you enjoy using that, if you, it's a fun disc to use for you, go on and use it. And I would encourage you, like, if you're finding that to be straight, I feel like there may be room for another Berg in the bag. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing to have two Bergs in the bag.
No, I think a Berg X, right? They're marketing that as, you know, the more overstable. I've never thrown one, nor held one, but yeah, I mean, I could easily slap another one in the bag. I mean, they take up a lot of space, but
yeah,
you should get a bigger bag, right?
That's if it's good, get a bigger bag.
That's exactly.
I've heard
key,
that.
right?
I've heard that a few times.
So,
sorry,
go
Robbie.
ahead, Brad.
No, I'll just keep that comment to the end. Maybe we'll talk about it at the recap after Tyler jumps off. I want to keep moving on his bag, but I have a thought / comment on the Berg, but I don't know if it's appropriate for this conversation. So you are a Wizard guy, though.
Wizard gang.
Yeah. I love the Wizard for a putter, and this isn't because y'all started at, you know, Foundation throwing Wizards around. I had Wizards before I knew what Foundation was. So for anybody out there who says, you know, I'm just following what the cool kids are doing, I started the cool kid thing. But no, the Wizard, my brother, I stole his Wizard from him when he moved. So sorry, Colby, sucks to suck. But yeah, the Wizard's a great putter. I love the way it feels. I have two of them in super soft glow plastic, which isn't super soft at all. It's actually very firm. But yeah, these are like 3 years old, and they're still perfect. They're still overstable.
I was going to ask you. It's interesting. I always like seeing people's like putters, like the amount of overstability they like in their putters. So tell me, like, briefly describe your like actual putting stroke. Like, you're obviously not a Hyzer putter, or are you a Hyzer putter?
No, it's pretty flat.
Okay. So what do you like? Why do you like the overstability? And these are heavy too. They're 176. So you like a heavy overstable putter. Why is that?
I think part of it comes from Ultimate. You know, when you don't put a lot of spin on an Ultra Star, it has it flies pretty straight, and then it dumps. So, you know, lofty, like high release backhands that was my thing in Ultimate. I loved it. It was my favorite throw. So that putt is a very similar, you know, obviously I'm not releasing it up here, right? But it's that kind of similar motion where it's kind of like a Vinny putt in a way, but a little bit more spin to it.
Yeah, like a pitch, kind of like you're throwing it nose up, like up in the air, lofty. Okay. It's interesting. Yeah. I'm just curious. I think, because again, I think that putting, at least for me, putters are all just really about feel, like what feels good and like how it feels coming out of your hand. And like, for me, I just like a very straight, like pop, like on mine. So it's just interesting. I like mine to be a little bit more neutral. So it's just interesting to see why people choose the putters that they do. Cause I think it's such a personal, maybe of any disc in anyone's bag, the putting putters are such a personal disc that it's just always interesting to run through that.
And I used to putt with Pures. Like when I first started out, I putted with Pures, and I don't even know why. I don't even know. I like tried to remember the other day, like where those Pures came from. No idea. I don't remember buying them. I don't know how they showed up. They were just there. But yeah, my brother had a really freaking flexible Wizard, which is like the best plastic. I wish they would make that again. So if Gateway, if you're listening to this, you should bring that back. That plastic blend was awesome. But I just picked that up one day and just started putting with it. And it was just, I mean, draining them from like 60 feet, no problem. Just like launching it out there and it would go in the basket. Well, I need to go buy some Wizards. So ended up with these. These are awesome.
Tyler, I appreciate you unlocking a thing for me that I did not realize why it felt so comfortable. That high release, like that throw. What position did you play in Ultimate?
In college, I played cutter and handler. I was kind of the jack of all trades. When I went and played pro, was getting there. It was defensive cutter.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, the high release makes even more sense then. I guess the amount of times that you're having to chuck that shot.
Oh yeah.
Wild. Okay, so let's talk proxies. You've got 3 proxies in the bag. I'm most intrigued personally by the electron proxy. Hyzer flip to turn, almost beat in. What kind of shots are you throwing that beat in proxy with?
This is like so I guess I'll start. This is my favorite part of my bag. I love throwing putters. They are if I could, I would eliminate all drivers and just throwing putters. But
Hey, you can.
well, it's really hard when you go and play holes that are like 1,000 feet, par fives, and to try and like get a birdie with that is really rough.
Hey,
And
200 feet, 200 feet, 200 feet.
It hurts. It hurts. You gotta throw them so hard to get it there. Like it just hurts a lot. But yeah, this is the best. So this this is like if woods, nice narrow gap that I really need to get out of, but I don't need a ton of distance. I'll put this one out there. Yeah, it's kind of warped. It's smacked some trees in its day. So, and it's almost perfect. It's almost to where I can get. I need a Hyzer flip. Well, need a Hyzer flip to a slight turn. And this is almost there. This is just flat. It might just a little bit depending on how much Hyzer I give it, but yeah, it's pretty spot on.
And then your cosmic neutron looks like it's more just like straight, just like super
it's dead straight. I mean, yeah, it's wild. It doesn't matter what I do to it. That thing is just dead straight.
And then it's funny seeing your neutron soft proxy. You've obviously changed the flight numbers on that one, right? So that looks pretty overstable, like almost envy level overstable.
I wouldn't say it's envy level overstable. I mean flight numbers are all, I think they're all relative. I guess especially when you go changing them. But for me, it's just if I were to throw all 3 of these out in a field, it's like this one is going to sit in the middle. This one will sit. My electron will sit off to the left, and then this one will just sit off to the right. And there's probably like 15 to 20 feet difference in between them. So, but like the soft one, the neutron soft, if I throw it on Hyzer, it's not flipping up. It's just holding that Hyzer. Whereas like the cosmic neutron, if I throw it on a little bit of Hyzer, it can pop up, and obviously the electron will. So that it's mainly for, I think the reason why I have the 3 and where I put them at on the chart is because of the amount of angle of Hyzer I want to give each of them.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I love the proxy minimalization. And it makes sense if you love throwing putters. I really want to find the person, and if you're this person, send us your bag, leave comments, things like that. But I feel like most people that end up loving throwing putters are ones that have done the mold minimalization down to a science of, okay, like why I love this is because there's such a joy in, it is that like I need 15 more feet to the right. Okay, let me pull out the electron proxy for this. Or in Tyler's case, I need 15 more feet to the left. Okay, let me pull out the electron proxy for this. Okay, it's got to go a little bit more, but I don't need it to hook up. Okay, it's not a zone. It's that electron soft, like, or that neutron soft. Like that is, there's such a joy to how you can just work putters doing all of that. I think I would struggle to see someone who says that like throwing putters are the strength of their game and they have like 5 molds across that spread. Because I just feel like one of the cool parts is you end up seasoning them in so much, those throwing putters, that like that's where the love and the joy. Why I love my throwing putter slots are because my pigs, I can do so many things with pigs and shock people when I throw my pigs. So yeah,
it is
just
fun
very,
watching
very
you.
interesting.
It is fun watching you throw the pigs, especially when you know what a pig's supposed to do. and you see one
Precious
flip
child.
up, and yeah, it just I'm like, what? How is that turning right now? It's a pig, which is kind of funny. Like, I love the note you left on your zone. You're obviously a zone guy, smart guy. But Tyler's first note is zone do zone things, which I don't know if I've ever heard a more true statement. Zones just do zone things. I love it.
It is what it is.
When you're mad at your zone, the first thing you do, you start yelling when it's not fading. It's like, be a zone, be a zone. Like that's
Yeah.
so,
Do the zone thing, man. That's what you're built for. Do it.
yeah, I love that. So what are you backhanding and forehanding your zone?
I can. I think I like it more forehand. I mean, in all honesty, if I'm gonna throw, I'd rather throw like the Rock 3.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think it's just way more comfortable forehand. I don't have an issue with it backhand, but I just would rather throw it.
That
throw the
seems to
Rock
be a
3.
consistent thing. Like I'm the same way. Like I will forehand my zones all day. They feel great. They feel comfortable. But if I really need that same like overstable backhand flight, I'm probably going to go Quake, just because I don't know what it is. Just feels more comfortable throwing it on backhand. Not sure why.
Yeah. I don't know if it's just like the profile of it and like that puddle top. I don't know if your Quake has a puddle top or not, but like my Rock 3s are very domey.
My Quake is domey.
Yeah, so I think that might have something to do with it because I'm not the biggest fan of like the Berg. I'm not super big fan of backhanding it. I do, but it's not the most comfortable feeling in the world. I don't know if it's the thumb track or the puddle on both of these or what, but yeah, I prefer to forehand it.
Yeah. I see that. I also, the note that you've made on your Rock 3, so we'll go ahead and jump into the Rock 3s. You've got Champ Rock 3s. Is it a stock? Is your Champ Rock 3 like a stock Rock 3,
Yeah.
or is it like an older, like Macbeth 2-timer?
It's just Champ every day. Go to Dick's Sporting Goods. Well, probably not anymore, but any place and just grab a regular Rock 3.
Yeah. I will say, if you like that overstable Champ Rock 3 and you want ones that have a little more stability, if you can find the Macbeth 2-time ones, they look literally the exact same as the one you're using. It just says like 2-time underneath it. Those are, I would say, if you love a overstable Champ Rock 3, those are probably the most coveted run out there. And the amount of times I will walk into a store and find one in a used bin, it's crazy. Like when you travel, you can find them so many different places because people just don't know what they have. So they're moving past them.
Well, not anymore. Now that you mentioned it, now it's going to be everybody's going to, hey, I know what I have. Robbie C said these are coveted, so $80 for this Macbeth 2-time.
No, you just got to go fast. You got to go fast. You got to reach out today. This episode doesn't go live till tomorrow, so you got time. You got time. But I love the note on your Halo one, not as overstable as Champ, because I think when people had these, they thought, oh, Halo's going to be overstable, all that, and it's a very straight. So talk to me about what the difference is between your Texas Ranger and your Halo Rock 3.
The Halo Rock 3, first off, I don't know if Innova decided to make this Rock 3 in the old Prodigy factory, but this sucker's got some flashing issues and it bothers the crap out of me. So shots fired, but yeah, it's bothersome. So I've been trying to sand it down, but and that might be part of it, right? The uncomfortableness is how I'm releasing it. Might have some flight characteristics, but no, I'm going to reach for this when I want something that is straighter with a harder fade. And that Texas Ranger is in Bravo plastic, so it's pretty straight. I mean, it does have, it's like the Buzz, right? Where everybody says it's really dead straight, but it's really straight with a nice little fade. That Texas Ranger is a little less dumpy than a Buzz, but this Rock 3 is pretty straight with a harder fade at the end.
Okay. That is a shot that I just dropped a video last week talking about like my 5 most used discs in the bag, and my reactor is that. Like, I want straight that's going to dump. That is, when I was with Innova, I could not find Rock 3s that did that. like they either were super dumpy or they would like, I had rock threes that I would throw that would just like go straight and then just turn. I was like, what? You're not supposed to do that, brother. So I'm going to jump the Bearcat. If you want to talk about the Bearcat, you can, but I want to jump it for time's sake because I really, your fairways are super. Your fairways could be the most clogged up part of your bag. And by could be, they are. Like, so, but I want to talk about the Paradox real fast because one of the questions that Tyler asked us before we started recording was, we're talking about drivers. Is there any other slots in your bag that you're like, hey, I think I see like an area of should other stuff go in? And I think something less stable for the, now granted, if you have a great forehand, I could see why this feels less necessary, but something that you can just pan over on like a pushing Hyzer for a hole that's a turnover more so than a forehand for you, in that like slower speed slot. The Paradox, the note that you have on your Paradox, get out of jail free, super flippy, rarely thrown. So my question is, because if there was a slot that I saw, it's that understable, slow speed disc that's not so understable as to get to the Paradox. So have you tried an uplink before?
I have not. I wanted the uplink, but in Eclipse plastic, and they had the Paradox in Eclipse plastic because I want that extra. The MVP Eclipse, generally in most cases will add that slight stability to the disc, which it does for the Paradox. It truly does. But the uplink wasn't available, so the Paradox was the option that I went with, and I truly, this disc and the Bearcat. Like the Bearcat is like a flippy Buzz SS, right? It'll flip up to flat and then slowly pan over for me.
Okay.
This Paradox is great for if I have like a long straight hole and then at the end it curves off to the left for me for backhand, right? It's just like, okay, I can get it there and it's not going to burn. At the very end, it's going to flatten out.
Okay.
It's got a specific purpose. It's just, there's not many holes designed like that. So
in my hand is a Eclipse uplink that I will send you. I
perfect.
100% agree with Robbie. I think, and this one's 176, it's a little heavier. So I think what you're going to be able to do with this is you're going to actually be able to throw it with a little bit more power, and it might be more usable. It might, instead of like your Paradox saying, I barely use this disc, you'll probably say, this is my get out of jail free disc. I also use 4X. I think it will have a little bit more utility for us. So I'm putting it in the pile here. I'm going to send that to you also from my shelf personally.
Yeah. I love the Paradox. I love the nicheness of it. Yeah, I would want something truly, like I mentioned before. I don't know if I mentioned this before we started recording or during the podcast, of like, when you see a slot, it's like, are you not throwing that slot because it's not something you usually use, or are you not throwing that shot because you just don't have the disc that fills that slot? And so something a little more stable than the Paradox, I think, could open those options. But I like that the Bearcat sounds like is maybe even like erring on that like -2.5 versus. So just options to consider there. But let's talk fairways. If you're ready to jump into those, Tyler, you have mold minimalized to perfection up here. He has 9 fairways in this bag, but only has 5 molds.
Correct.
If I'm counting that right. Yeah.
If we're 9 not counting fairways, the Onyx, if we're
I'm not counting the Onyx. The Onyx will be much more in the upper end of the conversation. So let's talk. Honestly, Brad, this may be a lot. We may not talk for a minute or two, for sure. Tyler, I want you to just kind of walk us through fairways. Like start, because it sounds like it looks like they would be very intermingled. So start us on the flippiest Insanity or the flippiest Hawkeye, whichever one it is, and then just kind of walk us through what until we get to the lift, because the resistor and the ATI we'll assume, and we'll talk about those, but like,
Yeah, I can leave those out if you want for right now.
Yeah,
Those, those are the outlier, right? Everybody knows what those do. All right, so I'll start with my Hawkeyes. I love these discs. I think Innova nailed it. These are awesome. I think it's kind of, overshadowed by the FD and the Cicada now, but the Hawkeye is good job, Innova. I wish you'd make more of them. So the G Star one is, I don't know if you guys can hear that.
Yeah, that's
that
a heartbeat.
Got some life to it. So it's super flippy. I mean, this thing is like great uphill, or for like a nice turnover. It's awesome. It's great for that. That's exactly what I use it for. I'm not Hyzer flipped straight with this one. I've got another one for that. This one's just turnover. If I feel crazy and think I can throw a roller down, yeah, I'll do this. But this is definitely the flippy one of the group. So I'll put this out there like 300, 325 or so, on like a nice, right to left turnover shot. Then the Star one was I think it's first run, but it's like the original Hawkeye that I had, the one that I fell in love with. It's getting pretty beat up, but it's nasty straight. I mean, flip up, just straight. That's it. That's all it does. It can't go left or right. It's just straight. It's perfect. This is same distance really. These I'm kind of maxing out at 330 or so. All of these. And then this is kind of the disc where it's like, do I need it? I don't know, but I like it. It's really cool. It's a Halo Star one, but I had which Brad, if you have one of these on your shelf, you could send me this too. But it was a 12-time Champ T-Bird. Not like it didn't have flight numbers on the disc when I got it. Like it was technically like pre-flight number, but the T-Bird already had flight numbers. But it was like the first run of his 12-time Champ T-Birds. So it's old. Yes.
This is a 12-time Champ T-Bird that's old. How do I have that accidentally on my shelf? I don't know.
And mine was also red. But a guy gave that to me back when I first started out, and I had that like from 2012 to 2021, and I was playing in a winter tournament, and I hit a tree with it, and it exploded. And
Thanks.
I probably felt more sad about that than like if there was I don't know. It was the saddest day of my life, I would say. Probably close to it in disc golf, not in real life. I almost went really weird on that, and I'm sorry, everybody. But it was really sad. I love that disc. That was my everything disc.
Yeah.
That was my precious child, right? If you blew up Precious Child on a tree, Robbie, I have a feeling it would be a bad day emotionally.
I would be
it was sad.
Distraught.
And it was like hole 2 of the tournament too. So it wasn't even like it was like, we're nearing the end. It's like hole 2. So I tried newer Champ T-Birds, not what I was looking for. So I picked up a Halo Hawkeye because once again, Halo Star, it's got to be more overstable. Nah, it's like just slightly more overstable, but it's pretty straight.
Okay. So talk to me the Insanities. Like you would hope that they would just kind of like, or a visual watchers, I'm doing one of those like fingers locking together. You would hope they would slot in simpatico like this. Is that the case, or is there some overlap?
In terms of between like these two, like the Insanities with the Hawkeyes overlap, it's mainly distance.
Okay.
I'm probably getting like 30 more feet out of these.
Okay.
Than I am these.
So similar
truly
similar flights out of all of them. It's just they kind of like, so they all kind of tie into each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, so this, like between my two flippiest, right? These, the Hawkeye versus this Vision Insanity. there might be left or right, maybe some difference, but in general, they pretty much kind of mirror them.
Okay. Okay. So the lift, what's the lift do to push, I guess, that stable side of things for
I
the Hawkeyes and the Insanities?
I don't know why this disc is the way that it is. I really don't. So this is like, I got this. A buddy of mine picked it up for me out of a used bin because it was like before MVP uploaded their new website and got all their new shipments out. Like, I couldn't find an Insanity to save my life. So I was like, well, the lift is like similar, and this one was getting too flippy. So I was like, I need one to replace it. And Hunter had said on a podcast, like, oh, Streamline is generally, a flippier version of the Axiom MVP. So, like, all right, I'll just get a lift. That should, like, fit right in. Nah. This sucker's, like, Thunderbird stable.
Okay.
It's insane. I truly don't know why. Maybe it's the Cosmic Neutron plastic. I know that's, like, stable in some of these discs, but it's weird. It's the weirdest thing.
I would say my lift that I forehand a bunch is probably more overstable than you think a lift would be.
I have an Eclipse lift that is like the best forehand disc. It is like flip up, flat. Like, I can throw that sucker 380 no problem. Like, easy 380.
You're the second person that said that today. I've got to try I have them sitting on my shelf behind me. I need to try that. I'm looking for a flip up forehand disc. So if I can mold minimalize and get that out of a lift, that would be incredible.
It's a dream disc. And I took that out of my bag because I'm like, that sucker, I'm afraid that I'll lose it. So, like, I have Insanities that do that. I don't need to take over. I don't need that disc to take over anything. So let's put that out of the bag and save it. So I got this one, like, oh, this will just replace an Insanity I have. No, it doesn't. It's Thunderbird level stable.
Interesting.
Okay. So the resistor and the Ati, just beef. Are you throwing the backhand and forehand, or just forehand?
I'll throw those backhand, forehand, mainly forehand. The resistor is great. The Eclipse resistor is money. This is one of my favorites to throw. I love it on nice, like, choppy flex lines. Forehand, backhand, I really prefer to throw it like level, flat, and let it skip. I love the ground play out of these things. It's awesome. And then this Auti is like cap wrap level overstable. This sucker is like, there's unless I'm putting Anheuser on it, there's no way that thing's getting ground play. It's straight down.
Okay.
So I guess
I guess distance wise, I don't know what I put in my notes. I don't remember, but like, that resistor is like 250 or so, maybe 300, and then the Auti is just like farther out than that.
That makes sense.
My question, really quick, Robbie, and I don't know why I've never thought of this, and I've thought of this, but I thought I had like a very simple answer. It's like, okay, well, if I have I'm trying to think of a good example here. I've eliminated this in my bag, so I just don't. It did it subconsciously. So, like, for Tyler here, let's say Hawkeye Insanity, right? Insanity, you can get like 20, 30 feet further, right, than your Hawkeyes. They fly pretty similar. You've already mold minimalized. Is there an advantage, Robbie, to have like a 7 and 9 speed? Yes, you can throw it 30 feet further, but it seems like there's a lot of confusion. Like, okay, what if I don't need to necessarily maybe I need to throw 10 feet further than the Hawkeye? Seems like there's like maybe a lot of confusion between like the Hawkeyes and Insanities in his bag. Is there like a strategy to like intermix them, or would you prefer like, okay, you're comfortable with the 9 speeds, let's go there and let's like eliminate the Hawkeyes completely? Like, what do you think? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah, totally. So I think there's two approaches to this. For lots of people, they're going to go like 7, 9, and then jump into distance drivers. I agree in that, to me, it gets a little confusing just because the 20 to 30 feet of distance is really nice. And it's nice that you know that. But like you're saying, those little increments can get tough of like, okay, what's the better? Let's say, Tyler, you're looking at a scenario and it's like, all right, I need 345 tunnel shot am I going to give my Hawkeye a little more? Or like, you kind of have to find those breaking points. And when can I give the Hawkeye more or take some off the insanity? Because if you take too much off the insanity, then it's not going to fly like an insanity. And then it's going to have some more stability than you want it to have, which isn't great when you're in the woods. So personally, my approach, and that's the best I have to speak from on that, Brad, is for me, I love sitting in that 7 or 8 speed slot, and I try to push as many 9 speeds out of my bag as I can so that I can just jump straight from like 7 speeds up to distance drivers, so that if I need to back off of some distance drivers. Now what that means is that, especially on the understable side, I need to have some really flippy distance drivers in my bag.
Mm-hmm.
Because if, let's say, you jump all the way to a we'll use a disc that Tyler mentioned that he tried. So the Vanish. It's supposed to be like 11.6 minus 3.1 or something like that. Like, it's supposed to be pretty flippy.
Mm-hmm.
But that 11 speed can really shine on that, like, more so than the minus 3 side of that type deal. So if I'm trying to back off of that 11 speed, because let's say I'm trying to push you get rid of your insanities. Well, now that distance chasm is a little larger. So what that might encourage is, you could learn that you can actually push your Hawkeyes more and more because you've actually grown to be a better player over time than you thought, but you just had the insanity sitting there. Or do you get rid of the Hawkeyes and the distance between your Bearcat to your insanities isn't actually as crazy as you thought it was going to be? And so now, I can actually push my Bearcat close to the 310, 320, or I can drop my insanities down. And then when I need those longer ranges, I agree. It's kind of an either and. I'm great with this setup right now, Tyler, because you don't have any distance drivers in your bag. So the insanities fill that slot, it sounds like.
Yes. So I guess I've been trying to tweak my form to where I can push 400 very comfortably with the insanities. So I have a Pharaoh, or I have 2 Pharaohs, that I can hit 400 all day. Like, that's not a problem on a Pharaoh, but I have to put everything behind it. And I mean, I can do it accurately. It's just I have to put everything behind it. So it's like, I want to be able to throw that at like 75% power versus 90% or 95% power. So I was like, well, I'll just dump those out of the bag and put, and max out on insanities here. And that way I can just get on those and get those to 400. So I've been using those as my distance drivers for the time being.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would be curious if you had something on the flippier side for, instead of a Pharaoh per se,
Mm-hmm.
that was, I can get the flight that I need out of a distance driver without having to like yam on it, because it actually has some stability to it. Which kind of transitions perfectly to what we wanted to try today, in that, like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, how do we get a little more out of it? Would you say, Brad?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense for sure. Because then again, you're using, like, I don't want to spoil what we threw yet, but maybe you have a flippier distance driver, but again, you're like, okay, I know I can throw this distance driver, 380, but I have a 350-foot shot. It's going to be like a little bit more stable to overstable for me. So I'm just going to like accommodate for that. And I'm also going to gain control because I'm not throwing it as hard as I possibly can. So yeah, I like that setup a lot. It's making me think a little bit, because again, I've eliminated. I only throw 7 speeds for fairways, and then I'm jumping up to like control drivers, 10, 11, well, the lift, it's forehand only though. I don't count that. So I was just curious on that setup. I've done it myself, but I didn't really think a ton of it, I guess.
Yeah.
So your thought, sorry.
Yeah, no, you got it.
I guess the thought here is that I pull one of those 2 discs out of the bag,
Mm-hmm.
and it's either, really hammer down, give the Hawkeye the beans, or just take off on the insanity to kind of hit that gap where those 2 could potentially, be rubbing against each other, right? Am I understanding that correctly?
I think so.
Yeah.
And I think for me, my game personally, I think I'm always going to err. What do I not have to throw super hard? I think that's where I want, because I'm immediately losing precision if I increase power right now currently. So I personally am going to always err for what can I throw like more controlled to get the flight that I want versus like having like, okay, Hawkeyes, I can just, like you said, give them the beans and they do what they do. I think for me personally, I would grab the Insanities and power down on them if I need to. That's personally what I would do. Now, I think maybe the only place I really see you having trouble is maybe that like gym of a Hawkeye uses like a perfect woods fairway.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but Robbie, I don't know if I mean, but you might find that your Insanity does that. You know, maybe that red Insanity kind of fills that, or maybe the yellow Insanity bumps over and kind of becomes that Hawkeye for
Yeah, I think if I power down on this red one, I think that might be able just to be straight.
you. Yeah, and that might give you more
I like that.
control. It might be more
Yeah,
perfect than the Hawkeye because it may give
yeah,
you more control even.
Yeah. One of the biggest things that when I'm like trying to help someone pare down a bag and work on decision making is I will just eliminate almost all of their decisions so that we end up I would rather you if you're trying to like help that decision making, I would rather you be on the course with less discs and realizing you need a disc that you don't have
Mm-hmm.
than be on the course with more discs and feeling completely comfortable because you're not really stretching yourself or seeing what a certain disc can do. It's one of the beauties of like putter only rounds is
Mm-hmm.
when you go play a putter only round, suddenly you're walking up to a hole that's 290 feet and you're like, oh, I've been throwing a mid range on this. Well, why have you been throwing a mid range? Like, did you have to pump that putter full power to get there? Or like, it makes you ask a lot more questions about what you can and can't do with your discs. And so, because of the fact that like if it's a little farther than the Hawkeye looks, you can just say, "Oh, I'll just throw the Insanity," like easy peasy.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe you actually don't have to push your Hawkeyes as hard as you think you do to get more distance. I don't know, it sounds like you may not know either. Just in terms of because there's always been something waiting on the front end or something waiting in the back end. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've been throwing my Insanity really well today, but this is a shorter shot. I'll just throw the Hawkeye
Mm-hmm.
in that situation. And it's also beautiful because you're not like locking this into the internet of all right, next time Tyler comes on, we'll have to ask which one did you take out. Like
Mm-hmm.
I took them out for 3 weeks and I realized I actually need both of them. Fantastic. Like
Yeah. And
that's
that's
awesome.
something, Robbie, you recommend to a bunch of people is like, you know, go play a round, take all your Hawkeyes out, see how it feels. Play another round, take all your Insanities out, see how that feels, and see, you know, are you leaning? Does it really matter? Maybe it doesn't even matter which one you keep in. Maybe it helps you regardless because not making, you're not causing yourself to make more decisions. You're just like, okay, well, this is clearly this shot. So boom, we're going to go
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
yeah.
Options.
No, I agree, 100% there.
So let's talk flippy distance driver because we went that way. I tried to move mostly off the note of like I tried the Vanish. That boy was stable. So I wanted to give you something that falls in line with the Hawkeye and the Insanity, but is more distance was the goal. And so Brad, what two molds did we try today?
So today I threw the Metal Flake DD from Discmania, and I also threw the Vanilla and Steady Plastic from Clash.
So do you have experience with either of those molds, Tyler?
I do not.
Okay. That's both on the newer side. The vanilla, obvious. The vanilla, I think, is actually like almost a year older than the DD. I think the DD is still pretty new in its disc golf life. But Brad, hand feel, they're distance drivers, but
Mm-hmm.
any sort of difference between them?
I think mainly is more of a comfort thing for me. First of all, I love 11, 12, 13 speeds, they all feel great in my hand. The bigger rim does. It's just I don't really have business throwing most of them. But yeah, just plastic feel overall. The steady plastic from Clash is just like a little more gummy, like just slightly more gummy. I think they really did a good job on this Metal Flake C line. It feels really good in the hand. I think just Clash always has a little bit of an edge on their plastic, just feels a little grippier. Like even the rim feels a little smoother. The DD, it doesn't have like a sharp rim, but it does have like a little bit. I'm not even call it flashing. It's just there's a little bit less of the bevel's less smooth on the rim there. Like by if I'm being nitpicky, vanilla probably wins on hand feel for me.
Okay. So looking at the flight numbers of these, obviously, I love Tyler's note of they're all subjective, and they're all relative. And
Yeah.
so looking at these heading into the field, what did you expect these discs to fly like?
So I really they're 11 speed, so this is where I start getting a little my arm speed gets a little gray, right? Because when we get that 11, 12 speed, I'm starting to max out or almost max out my arm speed. So I was like, okay, vanilla's 11.6 -2.1. I thought maybe, okay, this is probably going to be straight to stable / overstable for me. It probably won't just like Hyzer out because it's still supposed to be a little flippy. But I'm expecting to like just go pretty straight for me and then have some fade. The DD, I expect it to be kind of Thrasher-esque, and I know from my experience with Thrashers, I used to bag them. They can kind of be all over the place. Some can be really flippy, some can be like not flippy at all. So I was kind of like had zero expectations for the DD, and I purposely didn't go back and re-look at the flight numbers for the DD. It's not on the disc. I think sometimes that helps me make a more like arbitrary, like non-biased decision when I throw. Obviously, it's on the vanilla, but the DD, I was like, okay, I think it's like Thrasher-esque, but it's less stable than the DD1. So we'll just go throw it and see how it goes. Now, when I went out and actually threw, I think I said this on the live, the vanilla like flew exactly like the flight numbers. I think I was being a little like, amped up because it's on the live, but I said this might be the most accurate flight numbers I've ever seen in my life. Just for me, because I throw in a little, like maybe about this much Hyzer probably when it comes out of my hand, maybe about that much. Like I think the Tectus says between like 10 and 7 degrees of Hyzer is what I release on average. So
Okay.
I threw it out. It flipped up, turned, like not super turned, and I even had a lot of wind too. So like it turned, and then it would come back. It would fade, but not a hard fade, just like a gentle fade. And I threw this so far, like I was like, why have I not been throwing the vanilla the whole time? But it was consistent. Like I would throw it, it would flip, turn a little bit, and then fade, but it would go so far. The DD was flippier than that. Like it was flippier than I thought it. It was like a true -3.2. Like it would turn forever, and then it like at some point, depending on the wind was knocking these out of the air a little bit for me today. I had like a swirly weird wind, but it would like pan so hard to the right, but at some point it would like hit a wall and start coming back. But you like in a scary way, like it would start turning and I'd be like, okay, this is never coming back. This is going to just keep turning forever. And then it would hit a point where it would start coming back. Again, minus the wind and some bad throws. And I even said on the live stream, I'm like, is this supposed to be this flippy? So yeah, it was very interesting flight, but I threw, and Tyler, I don't know how much Foundation or if you watch Foundation at all, but I was at Timbrook Park. Hole 16 is that one that's like right on the edge of the hill, like that fades into nowhere land. But to the right of that is a soccer field, and like it has a lot of like diagonal length. And I was like throwing these into the fairway of hole 17, into the tee box of hole 17. And I was just like, I could not believe how far I was throwing them. But I've said this a couple times on this podcast, and I may or may not know what I'm talking about. So forgive me, people that do know what you're talking about. But the flight that people always like drool over for a beat in, like, oh, I've got to have this destroyer for 16 years and it like has this perfect like flip up and turn. And I get a full flight out of it. I mean, Kyle was just in here talking about it today, saying like, okay, I don't feel bad saying I can throw 500 feet because I'm throwing this destroyer measured 515 feet every single time I throw it. But he's describing that like flip up and turn full flight and that it has a stability at the end. But I'm like, I feel like I saw that in the vanilla specifically. I'm like, oh, this is what people are like searching for. They're searching for this big turn that won't roll but has stability and hooks up at the end, and like that's how they're getting this like big distance. They're getting like these huge like full flights, and I don't have a lot. I mean, the Strive recently, I think I said this about because it does give me that flight. But I will say with the Strive, it's maybe like a little harder to turn. Like I have to try to turn it. Whereas the vanilla, I could just kind of throw my normal throw and it would like turn. And like this is even nose up. As I was trying to adjust my nose angle, I'm trying to work on that. But I'm just like, what is the vanilla gonna do for me when I can like control this nose angle, get a little bit more nose down than nose up? Like it's gonna go even further. So it was very interesting, and it was still not so flippy that I was still trustworthy in the wind, which was nice. Again, the DD kind of like where it was more flippy, you could like it had its moments where it was like, oh wow, the wind's really killing this right now. But um, really interesting. I think at the end, and I predicted it, Robbie, at the end of the live, I was like, I think this is what Robbie is trying to show me here is I'm like harnessing your inner dialogue, like oh, so I'm getting this like bigger distance with these discs that are quote unquote flippier, but they're not they're maybe for someone who throws 500 feet like Kyle, the vanilla is going to be super flippy for him. But for me, it's like relatively easy to get the disc flight that I need out of it and get like more distance without worrying about rolling or any of my inconsistencies are not going to make me pay the price for them. The end rant.
Totally. It's the when we think distance driver, and this is something that I struggle with, this is something I see so many people struggle with. We put a distance driver in our hand and we cannot throw it smooth because it's like it's the big stick, gotta hit it hard, gotta go hard. Like even looking Tyler away, you're talking about of like, can you get your Pharaohs to 400? Sure, absolutely. But you've got to full send those things as opposed to I'd love the ability to flip up and just easy smooth out my insanities to that distance. I have a guy in my Patreon, the Birdie fam, who just threw an Exodus, which is a 7-speed. He threw it 396 or something like that. Absolutely crushed that thing. And he was like, I felt like Vinny. I felt like I was throwing eagles 400 feet. We all want that. Unfortunately, sometimes the disc has to help us out. But with these discs, Brad nailed it. If you grab this DD or this vanilla and you try to full yeet these things, that turn is going to show so fast. And it's like, I wanted the ability to, it can grow with you too, because it may start in your bag as like this max distance. I'm getting full flights out of it shot where for Tyler, he's throwing these things and it's just popping out to the left and it's just smoothed out. And then it kind of fades back at the end. But then as you get more arm speed and you're out throwing 450 comfortably, it's like, oh, I can half throw this and still get the same flight, or I can hit this thing hard on these big swooping turnovers that a forehand is just not going to get. Suddenly I have this shot available to me. So very, very intrigued by that. So Brad, which one would you end up recommending?
I don't know. I need your help on this one. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. Because my brain and my heart are conflicting here. Because I personally love the vanilla the most. And I know that Tyler throws a little farther than me. But I also think like if I'm looking at he obviously loves these Hawkeyes and Insanities, I feel like the DD is more like those discs just further. So I don't know. I really don't. I'm gonna have to defer to you, Robbie. I'm not really sure which one to recommend.
Can I ask?
Go ahead, Tyler.
On that DD, when you throw it and you're saying it goes and it's looking like it's going to just roll over or not come back, but then it hooks up, did that give you any doubts in the field about, hey, I don't know if this disc is really going to constantly do that? Is it going to lose that at some point? I mean, obviously it will as you beat it in, but did you have that fear when you were testing that out, like, this might not come back?
Only time I had the fear that it was not, and if I said roll, I didn't ever feel like it was going to roll. I did feel like it was just going to continue to fade out. I will say that I didn't feel like it was going to roll. I felt like it was just supposed to do the thing that it was doing. And I will say I threw the DDs further or farther than the vanillas every time, almost, unless like the wind hit them or whatever. The vanilla, I had a couple like other ones, but like at the end when I figured out how to throw the DD, like Robbie saw the one, I just went for it
Murdered
ever.
it. Yeah.
So, and then I will say that with C line, like even my FDs in C line, they they don't beat in quickly. I don't know, Robbie, if that's an accurate statement from your experience, but I feel like Discmania C line takes a while to beat in. You may play more than me, so maybe you'll beat in a little faster, but I don't think this is going to get to an unusable state. Like Robbie said, I think if anything, it'll get beat in or you'll get used to it where you can start manipulating it. And it might be that huge, like big turnover that you want that won't burn over. So I don't think this is one I'm going to not trust. Now, I will say in a windy situation, I would not, if I want it to fade back to the left for me, right for you, I wouldn't necessarily trust it in the like a lot of wind because if I did show the flight plate to the wind, it would just take it. It's not coming back. But
Yeah.
I think that's the way for most discs, unless you have something very overstable.
Yeah. I in my mind, I would almost throw this to you, Tyler, and ask the question of would you prefer something that is a little more understable out of the box? Like it to me, the range of error on the DD is larger than the range of error on the vanilla. But also the potential for me is the same thing. Like you're going to throw the vanilla and like what it can and can't do fits very well within the accuracy of the flight numbers like Brad was talking about. Whereas the DD being a little bit wider range, this is an end of a debate that goes back to the T-Bird and the Eagle. Some people love the T-Bird because it's 7502 and it's going to do exactly that. But the Eagle being a 75 minus 1-3, if you hit it wrong, it's going to turn way more and it may not come back. Or if you don't hit it well, it may fade way harder. But people kind of love that flexibility. Is there one that kind of calls your name more?
I mean, no. I mean, I'm kind of in the thought process of like it's a distance driver, right? There's obviously going to be more room for error with a distance driver. If I wanted something that was more accurate, I would just use a fairway driver or a mid range. So maybe the DD is the better option. You know, especially I mean, Brad, you were saying you put it out there farther than the vanilla every time.
Yeah.
Maybe that should be the route to go then.
Yeah, every time with that one that I hit almost at the tee box on the next hole, but I probably was still further or farther because of the angle that it landed in. So yeah, I mean, I will safely say that I threw the DD consistently. Once I figured it out, I didn't throw it less than 360 feet. So, and that's pretty big for me. I mean, I feel accurate saying like I can stay in that like 330 ballpark for like controlled max distance and like these I did and you can the great part is you can go to Instagram and watch the live. I always post it afterward. You could actually watch me throw them. I don't know how well you can see, but I felt very controlled. I don't feel like I yammed on anything. I felt like I was pretty smooth throwing them out. And it was like
Yeah.
again, coming back to what I said earlier, like I didn't feel like I was sacrificing accuracy or smoothness for power, and I was able just to kind of get these out there. So I think it'll be a good look for you. I think you have more experience too. You're throwing flippier things, so you're like more skilled at like throwing those type of shots. I think you'll figure it out very quickly, and I think it'll become something you lean on quite often.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, we will get these in the mail. And Tyler, would you be willing to come back on a future episode and let us know is the DD what you needed it to be?
Absolutely. Yeah. And we can sell the debate on if the Hawkeyes or Insanities came out.
Yep.
We can go down that rabbit hole too.
I will say the DD might help you in that decision. I know it's an 11 speed, right? But maybe that'll be like, okay, well, Hawkeyes, then DD. Maybe you like put that chasm there, or maybe not. Who knows? We'll see.
just to go back to that real quick. Is that the same thing like Paul Macbeth kind of did? You know, Thunderbirds and T-Birds, right? He wanted his name on a disc. Did he not throw T-Birds hardly at all and just threw 9 speeds?
Yeah, well, because the tricky part is, especially towards the end, Paul put the T-Bird, like the T-Bird 3 came out, which is an 8-speed. So it made the Thunderbird even more of an like anomaly if he was trying to put it alongside T-Birds. So like where a lot of people end up is if they're going to throw that 7-speed, the 7 speeds end up pushing to more of the understable side, and the 9 speeds end up to more of the overstable side. So it's less of a where yours are is that your 7 speeds and your 9 speeds, like you said, do the same thing, but it's just a distance change. Whereas where they're more so slotting them, like most of the time, if I'm throwing something understable, I don't need the 9 speed to really take over for me because it's understable. I can get more out of a 7 speed. Whereas when I'm throwing that overstable and it wants to get to the ground faster, that 9 speed can really highlight. So yeah, so Paul ended up in much more of that side, and then he ended up putting the crate in his bag, which is that 11 speed. So he jumped straight from flippy T-Birds up to crates. But it's definitely possible. Like, because then you have Calvin on the other side, who Calvin is throwing Eagles at his 7-speed, and then he has an overstable Thunderbird in his bag this year, but then he jumps all the way up to like destroyers.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is. It comes down to what you're going to feel comfortable with and what you're going to miss, because truly. I'd be prepared for a world of you're like, you know what? I love them both, and they both need to be in the bag. Like, what works for me isn't going to work for you, isn't going to work for Brad, and we just kind of have to adjust accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
It's truly my favorite part of this sport. This podcast wouldn't exist if it wasn't that case.
Oh yeah, I think that disc RPM is one of the greatest and worst things ever, because now I just sit on there and I'm just staring and scrolling through people's bags, through your bags, through my bags. Like, oh man, if I tweak this and move these, you know, get discs that fit here and here and here,
Mm-hmm.
you know, what does that look like? And then geek out and tell my friends and my wife, and they're all like, this is ridiculous. Can you stop talking to us? We're over it. You're such a nerd. Leave us alone. And so then I talk to my, you know, newborn baby who can't respond back. And I was like, hey, guess what? And I do like little in the bag things with her. And so she's kind of stuck there. So she doesn't really, she's trapped.
Sure. No choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's too funny.
But yeah, no, this sport's amazing for that. Plastic's amazing. Like I told you, Robbie, I just love talking plastic. I could talk plastic.
I love it, dude. I love it. Well, Tyler, we appreciate you coming on, and looking forward to chatting a future episode, brother.
Sounds good. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
See you, man. All right, that was another one. Hey, I am feeling good that I can actually throw these 11 speeds now. So that's some progress after a couple of years. Yeah. And I feel like my form's getting smoother, and that is why I'm throwing better and farther. So maybe, you know, I know there's an old saying there, so maybe it's true after all this time.
Okay, so there was a question you were going to ask about the Berg. Do you remember the question?
Oh, it was a comment. Maybe we'll do this. Let me know if you all want to, again, this is the content we're talking about on the In the Bag YouTube channel. I know I have a goal of getting to 900 rated by the end of the year. It's going to be a hard one. We're halfway through. We'll see how it happens, but I get as close as I can to 900. I did play a tournament recently. I would say played pretty well. But there are like quite a few things that I realized that I did not have like in my arsenal of throws and or discs that I need for a very well-rounded like round of disc golf. But the comment that I was going to make is like, maybe I need to be a Berg guy. Maybe there's something to that, but I could never be the Berg guy based on the things I've said about the Berg. So I might have to go back and be Armadillo guy. I might have to put the Dillo back in. It might happen, and I don't want to be that guy, but I also want to be that guy. So let me know in the comments. Do you all want to see a video? It wouldn't be a super long video, but maybe I'll do a video of like a tournament recap, some things I learned, kind of walk through the round, some things I did well. Jason played that with me, so maybe we can have Jason on as a guest and he can talk through there as well. We have had a pretty similar round, you know, some things he did well, some things I did well, and vice versa. Some things we didn't and did not. So let us know if you'd like to see that episode. Let us know in the comments below. Happy to do it. Just some extra content. But I think one of the things is like I need to sit down, back down a backhand approach that I can rely on, and I don't have that. I really don't have a disc or that shot that I'm comfortable with. So I might be an armadillo guy again. That's basically the headline here. You don't love it. Don't say you love it.
I am not. I'm not a dillo guy. It's funny for a guy that is preaching the beauty of lids. I'm not all there. But I also, my polecat isn't even in my bag right now. So like,
yeah,
that tunnel shot has taken over. And after the round that I played this week, like the confidence was so there with it. It's like, oh man. But there is a world of, like, the joke that was made about my tunnel shot was that it almost knew when the basket was coming up and it decided to fade. Like, it would hold dead straight towards the basket, and then right before it could touch a chain, it would just fade out a little bit.
Interesting.
And it was like, oh, okay, well, that's just me committing to throwing it a little harder, throwing it a little straighter, whatever it may be.
Right.
But it's that beautiful part of, I threw all of those attempts literally chain high, and then they would just fade out a little bit before, but I was still only 15 or 20 feet away. So I agree that having that disc in your bag can be really great. But there is a lot of great discs that can be in your bag. And thankfully, we have quite a few in the warehouse. Brad?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, there's just discs everywhere in here right now. I'm looking out through it. Not ones that are on the site and on the shelf yet. We have so many to put up. I mean, complete Innova restock. I mean, everything, pretty much everything. Like, I have Star Rats, Robbie. If that tells you something.
Wow.
That tells you something. But one thing that'll definitely be, it's kind of a new release, stock Halo Destroyers. Those will definitely be up this week. So you destroyer people, keep those in mind. We have a bunch of Gateway that we just put up. We have some Mystics. I know Robbie specifically said, hey, you need to grab some of those and put them up. We have some Robbie C Wizards. I'll say that again. Robbie C Wizards are going up when you're hearing this. So you've been waiting for them again. They're up again. Make sure you go check them out.
A lot of them too. I think that's an important detail, because I feel like every time we've dropped Robbie C Wizards, it's been like there's like a small batch of them.
Well, the last time there was, but the time before there was a lot, and everyone just loved them. So
yeah,
they're up as long as you want them to be up. If you all, I mean, that's a great thing we can do. We can just keep pumping out the orders. Gateway's very quick with those. So as they sell out, we'll get more in. So that's great. We have some AGL. Have some. I'm looking at the board behind me. Acacia, Magnolia, Baobab. Also, we've never had the Stego. We never had any Reptilian, but I do have some Stego in the house. So if you're always wanted to try that, maybe I'll be a Stego guy. That's more of a 4-speed, but I need to be like a slamming lid type disc that's not going to go anywhere.
The Stego will get to the ground. I will tell you that.
Yeah, well, their description on their website says it's the equivalent of throwing a manhole cover is exactly the description. Yeah, so a lot of that going up. We're going to have the Royal Saviors are going up, which feel incredible. Those are there. Nordic Phenom 3, I think, the newest Horizon DD3 with the little I don't know if it's not a Bobcat. It's probably like a
it's like a Lynx or
Like
something.
a Lynx, yeah. So that's going up. I mean, it just came in. I don't think they released this week. I think it's next week. But all of the fresh new MVP hotness just arrived. So we have like the Proton Tesla, all the Simon discs, the Electron Entropy. Sorry, I blanked out for a second. So Fission, Time Lapse, that sort of stuff. I think that releases next week, but it's here too. And I'm excited to announce also that they're in production. We have some new in the bag discs happening.
Come on.
And they're not just in the bag logo. They're a little flair on that, and they're also conflicting discs. One is my favorite, and one is Robbie's favorite. We'll let you decide what that is.
Yeah.
So we're excited to release those, but we also have new tacky sacks. I should have grabbed some. I don't have them here at my desk, but there's some Robbie C Pizza tacky sacks. Again, they're their grip sacks. They're very powdery. So if you like that powder without like a bunch of the actual white powder on your hands, they're
Yeah.
very great for that, but very chalky. I don't think it's actually chalk, but we have Robbie C, Grip Locked, Heck Yeah, Bogey Bros, Tour Life, Dark Horse, Foundation. We have a bunch of different designs of those going up as well. And don't forget, we got Bogey Bro tees in the house, as well as Tour Life, Grip Locked, and Windbreakers, hats, you name it, we have it. So recently restocked is always your best friend. And there's a Father's Day sale running through the end of this week. So make sure you check that out. Use code DAD at checkout, and that gets you 15% off.
Dude, I love it. A lot of great options out there, everyone. Long episode, but when we got good stuff going, we got good conversation going. I'm never going to look at a guest who we're having a great conversation with and be like, hey, could you not?
Don't speak,
Because
please. Don't speak.
we are so grateful when people are willing to come on and take time out of their day to be here on the podcast with us. And so I hope you guys enjoyed it. I thought it was a great conversation, and there's some great discs coming. And if it's good,
keep it in the bag. We'll see y'all next week.